Hello, and welcome to the Gamer's Closet. I'm your host, Douglas Wheat, and today we're going to be talking about Deep Sea Adventure. Deep Sea Adventure is a game manufactured in 2014 by Oink Games Incorporated. The game seats anywhere from 2 to 6 players, runs for about 30 minutes of game time, and is rated for ages 8 and up. But let's dig into it a little further, shall we? Deep Sea Adventure is a roll, spin, and movement game, a push-your-luck style of game, and a nautical-themed submarine game that was produced in 2014 in Japan and was later brought to the United States in 2016. In this game, you play as a group of poor explorers hoping to get rich quickly, head out to recover treasures from some lost underground ruins. They're all rivals, but their budgets force them to share a single rented submarine. In the submarine, all of the rival explorers have to share the same single tank of air as well. If they don't get back to the sub before they run out of air, they'll drop all of their treasures. Now is time to see who can retrieve the greatest riches. The game has been released in several other countries, including, as I stated before, Japan. It was also been released in Germany and Russia. This game does come with multiple pieces. It does come with 1 submarine board, 1 air marker, 6 explorer pieces, 16 blank chips, 32 ruin chips, 1 set of instructions, and 2 1 through 3 dot dice. To set up this game, place the submarine board where it is clearly visible to all players. Place the air marker over the number 25 on the submarine board. This displays the remaining amount of air in the submarine. Turn all ruin chips face down, separate by level, and shuffle thoroughly. Line up ruin chips in order by level from low to high so they connect to the submarine board. As long as they form a single line, any arrangement is fine. Each player takes 1 explorer piece according to preference and places those on the submarine board. The person who has been in the ocean most recently takes the first turn. If no one has, roll the die. The player who rolls the highest number goes first. The game takes place over 3 rounds. The player to gain the most points over the 3 rounds is the winner. In order to gain points, you must bring the most ruin chips back to the submarine. You can only return to the submarine once per round, and you cannot return to exploring after this. On their turns, players conduct steps 1 through 4, which I'll be going over in a moment. Players take turns going clockwise around the board. The round ends when all players have returned to the submarine, or if the air runs out at the beginning of someone's turn. Step 1. Reduce air. Reduce air from the submarine board by the number of rune chips that you currently hold. Treasure from previous rounds does not count. Even when the air falls below 0, the player may finish playing their turn. Players who have already returned to the submarine do not reduce the air supply. Step 2. Declare if you will turn back or not. Say if you will turn back or go forward. You can only change direction once per round. If you decide to turn back, turn your explorer piece to face the submarine. You no longer have to decide the following moves. If you roll the dice without declaring anything, you must move in the same direction as the previous turn. Also, on the first turn of a round, you cannot choose to turn back. Step 3. Roll the dice and advance your game piece. Roll the dice together and move your explorer piece forward on the ruins chips that come up. When advancing over a ruins chip with another player explorer piece on it, jump over that ruins chip without counting it. Please note that if you are holding any ruins chips you picked up for that round, you must subtract the number of chips from your total die roll. Also, stop on the deepest point possible if you roll higher than the ruin chips that are placed. And finally, number 4, searching. When you stop moving, you can do one of 3 things. A, do nothing. B, pick up a runes chip. In this case, you can take a runes chip without flipping over, then fill in the location it was taken from with a blank chip. Place the explorer piece on top of the blank chip. You cannot view the runes chip collected until you return to the submarine with them. You can hold any number of runes chips, however, holding 6 or more will leave you unable to move when rolling the dice, according to the rules that I've just covered on movement. Or C, place a runes chip. When you are holding a runes chip you picked up in that round, you are able to stop on a blank chip. You can place 1 runes chip of your choice on that spot. Swap the blank chip you are stopped on for a runes chip you are holding and return the blank chip to the bank. The steps that I have just covered do then complete your turn. Pass the turn to the next player in the clockwise direction, who will then complete steps 1 through 4. A round ends when all players return to the submarine or when the air runs out. Players who made it back to the submarine and those who did not carry out their respective steps that we'll cover in a moment. So players who make it back to the submarine turn their rune chips you brought back face up. Face up rune chips become treasure and count as points. These are not returned to their locations. Players who did not make it back to the submarine drop all the treasures they picked up that round to the bottom of the ocean, in the order of furthest to closest to the submarine. Players place these rune chips they held back on the board. Each player's chips are stacked at the end of the line as pictured here, the furthest from the submarine in the empty locations. Once 3 chips have been stacked, the 4th chip goes to the next spot. You can freely decide where the chips go, but you always have to make sure they're in at least stacks of 3. Stacks of 3 runes chips placed this way on the round's conclusion are treated as a single runes chip in subsequent rounds. All 3 should be picked up and placed together. They will also be treated as a single runes chip in terms of how much air decreases and the amount subtracted from the dice roll. They act as 3 chips worth of points when recovered as points. When all players have taken the actions I've just mentioned, all blank chips are removed from the board and all gaps are filled with the chips immediately behind them. All players move their explorer pieces to the submarine. The player furthest from the submarine becomes the first player and the next round begins. If all players make it back, the last player to make it back to the submarine becomes the first player for the next round. The game ends when the 3rd round concludes. Points gained by players over all rounds are totaled. The player with the most points is declared the winner. In a case of a tie, the player with the most high-level ruin chip is the winner. When the player has the same number of high-level ruin chips, the game ends in a draw. Well, this has been an overview of Deep Sea Adventure. Deep Sea Adventure is a great little board game. I call it a board game loosely because the fact is that you have different chips and a little teeny submarine board that you play on with some actual little figurine pieces. So overall, I would classify this as a board game because there are no cards involved with it. The game is very easy to pick up, very easy to play. It is really a decent game to play on a family night. It's great with kids. The game itself goes online anywhere from about $10 to $30 depending on where you find it at online. Most local game shops do stock this. If you haven't played Deep Sea Adventure before, I really would recommend giving it a try. It has a great competitive edge to it for the non-junior player. So it has a nice strategic edge to it because of how deep you go down into the sea to get relics and come back up, because then you have to deal with the air supply. So you can have really greedy people that want to try to get early points versus the people that are trying to go in deeper into the ocean. And because of that, you have air supply factors. So it can get a little tough in places, especially if you have people that are a little more on the competitive side. So like I said, if you haven't played Deep Sea Adventure before, I really would recommend playing this game. Well, that's it from us here at the Gamer's Closet. We'd like to thank you for checking out our video on Deep Sea Adventure from Oink Games. If there's a game in the future you'd like us to review or go over, please put it in the comments below. Please hit subscribe so that way you can be the first to check out our future content. And as always, please have a great gaming day.